All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Sit Down with SymTrain, where I sit down with experts from contact center, AI, and employee development. As always, I'm your host, Erin Wilson. And today we tackle the question, AI-powered coaching and agent assist, friend or foe? And to help me unpack this topic, I'm joined by a dear friend of mine, the Global Head of Solutions Consulting at Minerva CQ, an expert on all things agent assist, among pretty much a ton of other things, but we'll focus on agent assist today. David Paine. Hi, Dave. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for having me here. This is great to spend the time with you to talk about these things and see if we stay friends.
Yes, to see if we stay friends. This is going to be an interesting conversation. And Dave, you and I, well, more you than me, have been in contact center for what, 25 years? And as long as I've known, you've represented a lot of different types of technologies, from hardware to CCaaS. What made you get into agent assist?
Well, one, it's emerging technology, and there's a lot of noise out there. And I evaluated a bunch of different companies, and I thought Minerva CQ had the best technology to provide to their customers, and I just wanted to help customers transform their business.
We have that in common. Business transformation is definitely a big part of why we do what we do every morning, right? But just to kind of level set, because the audience might be a little more familiar with the AI-powered coaching and not so much the agent assist side. So can you explain at like a high level, what is agent assist? And we'll start there.
So at a high level, what we're trying to do is do a collaborative workflow of all the business processes an agent might do. So inbound call comes in, we qualify the person, we find out their account balances, and go all the way through the entire interaction to reduce handle time, increase first call resolution, and really drive proficiency, because agents are required to know a lot of stuff now because of such high churn rate.
Okay. But agent assist technologies, those sit right next to the agent, like while they're on a live call. Is that correct?
Yeah, it becomes the main screen that they work on. So everything's brought into one screen. So instead of going to 3 or 4 different screens, they just stay in one screen.
Nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's some alt-tabbing champions in the agent community, right? Who might be a little sad about that. But it's interesting because you mentioned the average handle time and the first call resolution. And, I talk a lot about proficiency, with AI-powered coaching, working after the call's done to try to help them get better and practice those skills. And there's a lot of overlap, right? Between SymTrain and Minerva, we affect the same technology. So, I mean, I hate to ask, but do we think that means that these two solutions are redundant if we're fixing the same problems?
I don't think they're redundant. What I think is that they complement each other at some level. The goal for Minerva CQ is to reduce onboarding by taking a brand new agent and putting them in the seat and having them go and be able to handle every interaction. Possibly where I see you, SymTrain come in is where they want a depth of knowledge so that they understand what they're actually telling the consumer to do or the next actions they're doing.
Okay, so you guys are trying, you said, to handle every interaction. Does that mean you're looking for a universality, or is that a word? I don't know, a universal agent?
Yeah, the ultimate goal is a universal agent. We have one customer that is looking at basically documenting everything, putting it into our agent assist platform, and hiring a different type of persona or person for their contact center. Someone that's not necessarily an expert in the industry they're in, but good at customer service.
Okay. And yeah, that's definitely not necessarily the agent profile that a lot of people go for, right? They usually are going for very specific, I know healthcare, I know retail, and I've done that, but there's an assumption that they come with that base level of skills.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So maybe based on that, I don't know. I don't know if that makes us friends or foes yet. So we're going to try to keep score throughout this conversation of some of these points we make, whether or not it's agent assist and AI powered coaching, what page you're on here. Now, this might be a little controversial, but we both came from CCaaS, right? Our contact center as a service. And as a solution consultant in that space, we had the chance to hear about so many different contact center leaders just lament about all of these broken promises of AI, right? That the bots that they're buying just aren't quite delivering on the hype, right? Isn't Agent Assist just a bot? Not to be not to be rude, sir.
Rude. So I think that's the biggest challenge that the industry has right now when it comes to the term AI Agent Assist, is because nobody has actually sat down. I'm not saying nobody. Most customers haven't really sat down and said, "Hey, what are all the requirements I have for this?" I just responded to an RFP under the Agent Assist category. It said live transcripts.
That was the one feature they wanted.
That's the one feature they wanted, which has nothing to do with Agent Assist. But you have platforms that are doing coaching, like, hey, here's next best action, here's coaching, here is a checklist, and then you have the adaptive workflows. So depending on what platform you're looking at, you may need training from SymTrain or like solutions, because it really comes down to the depth of AI Agent Assist that you're getting from your vendor.
Dig in on dynamic workflows a little bit for me, because I'm not sure I understand what that is fully.
So most of the time when you go from point A to point B, you have a static map. Like, think of the old days when we had an actual map. You would write down your journey on a piece of paper, and it would get you from point A to point B. Think of it in a dynamic flow of similar to Waze. You have your destination, and you're at home, and maybe you want to stop at Starbucks along the way. Well, that's a change in your actual journey, but I'm going to still get you there, and I'm just going to give you that snippet of knowledge to get you to Starbucks, but I'll get you back on track so I could actually get you to the fastest resolution as possible.
Okay. So it's going from like that old MapQuest printout to something that actually says, "Oop, there's an accident. Let's take a different route."
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So it's not quite a bot then, right? Because most of the bots, when people, at least the bots that everybody criticizes in the CCaaS space as being not holding up to that promise of the AI, those tend to be very linear journeys.
They are very linear journeys. It's pre-programmed next best action by a human. Hey, if you hear this word, hey, I want to cancel my subscription, offer them a 15% discount. I mean, it's the static rule that's in there, but it looks cool in a demo.
Well, as a customer, I love that rule, right? Leave it in my shopping cart, wait a day, they'll send me an email and give me 15% off. Like, well, I didn't need it tomorrow anyway.
So I think that's really where, as much as I wanted to be an enemy or a foe in this, after you asked me to do this, I found that there's actually a complement between SymTrain and certain Agent Assist platforms that don't bring the full gamut of customer journey to the mix.
For sure. And, to your point about not having that linear path, right, and that need for dynamicy, I think that's where a lot of, onboarding and training solutions fall a little short too, right? They don't offer that like random sim, right? The one that's like, hey, look, here's a simulated conversation, but you don't know which one you're going to get, right? So you're not giving the agents that opportunity to just memorize the happy path and then get on with their day.
Yeah, and that's true. And we had the fortunate ability to have one of our customers, their BPO had high churn rate, and we had brand new agents put in place. They actually performed as well as 6-year veterans within less than 6 weeks using our platform. Granted, they don't have depth of knowledge of the overall backend systems, but they were able to perform as well just from the tasks that we had built through the adaptive workflows.
That's cool. So completely new to on the phones and productive in 6 weeks. Not to brag that SymTrain can do it in like 2, but that's okay, right? Right? We're still friends here. But that's the difference, right? And I think that's why we are more friend than foe, right? Because there was a little bit of that question along the way, because if you're doing the job and you're practicing on your customers, it's going to take you a little bit longer than if you can practice in that safe zone, right? And kind of like fail privately, and learn a little bit like, oh, I wanted to try to say that, and then I said it out loud. I'm not going to do that again. That I listened to that call recording. So I get that. So it does sound like we've arrived at like our first friend point, right? Both AI powered coaching and agent assist solutions help make these agents a little more confident, like shorten that time to proficiency. But like, how much more confident are you actually seeing your agent's report being? Because we use this internally, not only, with our customers. And I took an internal poll of our BDRs, who are business development reps, right? The lovely outbound sales team that will probably call many of these webinar attendees after the fact to see how they liked it, right? To see when we brought them on board, right? Using the tool, how more confident did they get? And you across the board, everybody was like twice as confident. Like if I do a sim in the morning, I am twice as confident for the rest of the day going out there and calling. And in things like collections and sales, that's really important. But also in customer support, if you don't want to have to give them that coupon, you really need those agents to be confident. If you want the customer to believe that the solution is the thing that is going to actually solve their problem, right? That the package will show up one day, right? You need them to deliver that with a little bit of gusto. So what have you seen from an agent assist standpoint?
Well, one of the things we do track real-time sentiment as you're going through the interaction. Obviously, I could tell if you're frustrated or happy or not. Most people are that smart. However, what that really feeds into is our agent churn models. So we can predict when an agent may want to churn or leave. And what we're seeing by proactively giving that to the managers, they have a way to go, hey, Erin, everything okay? Do we need to do something? And it may be, hey, I need reinforcement and training. I need more time off, etc. But at least we're being proactive in addressing that to try to reduce the churn, and then include basically that overall says, hey, happy. If you have a happy employee, you're getting better customer service.
Absolutely. Churn is such a big challenge. And one of the, being a CCW last week, a big talk was like, I don't want to talk about churn. It's so negative. We all want to talk about retention. What is our retention rate now? And I guess when you get past 50%, you can actually try to be positive. But maybe for the last 20 years, our churn was more than that. So we were like, I don't know. But if anybody has any questions or wants to chime in, we are intending it to be interactive. So go ahead and post your question in the Q&A, and I'll kind of keep an eye on it and make sure we're getting Dave's brain picked accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to pivot just a little bit, right? How do we tell good AI solutions from just somebody who's using AI in their name? And this I'm asking you not necessarily as David Paine from Minerva, but rather David Paine has been in CCAS and contact center forever, and we have evaluated together many AI solutions out there. So help the audience learn how to tell the difference.
I think the biggest thing is you got to understand your business as your internal organization and what are you trying to achieve. Skip the Minerva CQ component. Just as a solution consultant, walked into so many contact centers over the years that have so many different systems that, one, they don't talk to each other. You have agents that pivot chair from one system to the next and trying to navigate, even with integrations to the leading CRM vendors. They don't always have the real-time integrations to the back-end systems. So agents really struggle on, what do I do next? And it really lengthens that onboarding. Like Erin's talking about reducing the onboarding. Once you establish that, that's when you should write down, like, look, I want coaching. I want suggestions. Do I need a checklist, or do I actually need kind of I'll use adaptive workflow, but a workflow that will ensure I'm capturing all the proper components of the interaction, whether it's compliance statements, whether I'm doing a feedback loop. That's the important stuff, because right now everyone hears the buzzwords and looks at the cool videos, but they're just saying they're jumping in a little bit fast. It's like when we did the CCAS migration from premise, everyone put their big toe in first, and it took a long time. Everyone seems to be jumping into this AI transformation space without really getting a grasp of what they really want to achieve internally.
For sure. And the generative AI piece, right? Like that's something that everybody's like, oh my God, I absolutely need it. And then you start hearing the horror stories of that lawyer that submitted a brief with like hallucinated case studies and stuff like that in it. But yet I still fundamentally believe that generative AI has a place in business if you know how to train your model right on your data, right? Like you've got 60,000 customer calls a day, a week, a month, a year, right? You've got all of these call recordings. You know what a good customer conversation sounds like. Shouldn't we be able to use generative AI models like how SymTrain and Minerva are doing to help streamline some of that setup and some of that assistance that happens, or should we be worried about that?
I think from a Minerva CQ standpoint, generative AI, it is a really cool, powerful tool, but you still got to really get down to what your business wants. I was in a business last week. They have their own private data models, because if I have a conversation about a particular customer, do I want a generalized summary, or do I want a summarization that's specific to that customer and my business terminologies, things like that? So Minerva has the ability to do models of service where you can bring your own data models, or we could do private data models so that it's only specific to your business. And that is really compelling in the healthcare and financial services space, because as much as generative AI is good, it has those issues like you just brought up with the attorney.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the position SymTrain is taking too, right? We've got a generative model that, learns from all our customers. It knows what a good contact center conversation flow, that there's an opening and there's whatever. But we also let people have their own proprietary model, right? They're like, this is trained off of your phone calls so that there's less of a likelihood of a hallucination that's going on. Because I remember, so Rowan Trollope used to be the CEO of Five9, and his whole thing was there is so much dark data in the contact center because no one's really using the call recordings. We have them, and maybe we do, some after call or automated quality management. Maybe you're doing some of that kind of stuff to see what the themes are, what are your customers talking about, but we're not applying it in a way that like actively changes the behaviors of our agents. It's more academic. And I think that's where, you and I kind of clash a little bit, because we both are taking a similar philosophy where we're saying, look, take that data and now build an AI model off of your calls so that you can train your people and use that secret sauce, like make the tribal knowledge happen in a way that's actually applicable in the day-to-day of the contact center.
Well, what's great there, Erin, is that if a customer built their models with SymTrain, we could leverage those same models, so they wouldn't have to have two copies or two separate instances.
I like that. So what I'm hearing is start with SymTrain and then go to Minerva. This is we can end here, Dave. This is great.
Okay.
Just kidding. Okay, so I thought that was going to be a tick one for the foe, but now that was a very friendly retort, so I will take it. Let's see. Yeah, so thinking about the knowledge base itself, right, and how we're measuring that retention and the time it takes for agents to be coached and be trained and all of that. Talk about how Minerva is doing that, and then I'll kind of pile on with how we're approaching it.
We basically train the customers on basically the agents on their actual flows, and it may be some test calls coming through the platform so that they see what the experience is, but it is sit down, buckle up, and go. Once they've been trained on the platform, just the usability side of it. From that standpoint, we're integrating to customer knowledge to provide the right snippet of the answer, similar to if anybody's ever Googled something and they get a YouTube link, it says 3 minutes and 49 seconds, watch this is your answer. Instead of giving the whole article or watch this 5-minute video, we're doing just the proper answer at the right time, which does accelerate the call itself, reduces the handle time. We have one customer which had a 44% reduction in handle time just because we added knowledge in a proactive method like that. So we're not doing a lot of pre-training like you may expect in a traditional contact center, because from the start to the finish, just like I described in ways, we're giving the journey, and if there's a tangent, we're providing that adaptive journey along the way.
Yep. And would it be fair to say then, in order to measure the actual retention and how much your agents are learning how to get from here to the Starbucks versus just kind of blindly following the path that Waze tells them to go, that you'd have to do some kind of post analytics, or do you guys do that?
We don't do the post analytics like where we're evaluating like from a QA standpoint. We do track each step as we go through, so we can provide output of which are preferred paths, which are the most optimal paths. And we're not, in no way are we trying to make a bunch of robots sitting at the desk. We're providing suggestions of, hey, ask the customer if they're happy with this webinar.
Yep.
But they can put it in their own personality and say, hey, as we're in this webinar, do you think there's any advantages and disadvantages you're getting from it, or whatever they want to spend? Because we don't, that's the last thing is we want is to have a bunch of robots. We want people to be happy about their jobs and have that, and we're just providing collaboration.
100%. And that's where I think we are a complementary solution in that sense as well, because we can actually measure that retention, right? Because now we can give them those prompts without the, I dare I say, crutch, right, of the agent assist tool to be able to go back and say, okay, now have this conversation again with the customer, like the simulated conversation with the customer, and see whether or not they're able to behave and perform and find all the information that, they were to, did they remember to ask if they liked the webinar, right? To use your example. So I definitely think that there's a good synergy there between the two types of solutions to make sure that not only are you reducing the handle time because you're giving them the turn-by-turn directions and giving them the key moments in the knowledge bases or in the YouTube video, whatever it is, but you're also helping them build that confidence and build that memory and that actual do-it-myself muscle of beforehand, that depth of knowledge, as you put it, Dave.
Yep. No, definitely. I think one of the things that we've also run into over the years is the amount of times the agents said they stopped using a tool.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you about, because like people do not adopt software. I mean, it's just software adoption generally. You go and you buy something and it sounds great and it demo's good because we all have really great salespeople on our teams. And then what, right? How do we actually keep them using that piece of software? So I think you've got a strategy for that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, one of the things, I mean, this goes back to the consulting hat. With any AI platform, there is a level of managed services that's associated with it that needs to be kind of integral to any customer's business, unless the customer wants to learn how to fish and manage it themselves. Because
so many SymTrain customers do, by the way.
Yes, so many customers love to fish. But as their business evolves and things change, the AI models need to be continuously trained. And if there's new knowledge, if there's new products coming out, it's not just like, hey, we set it up once and walk away and forget it. It's an ongoing maintenance strategy, and that's one of the things I think people aren't really aware of. So having that collaboration between your AI partner and your business to continuously bi-weekly, monthly meetings to how is your business changing? What do we need to do to help streamline any processes that might need to be optimized? And that's because without that, you're going to have to rely on SymTrain a lot to do not knowledge training on all the systems that the integrations broke on.
Yeah. And while I would love people to rely on us heavily, I think it is important though, to not be incumbent 100% to the vendor for some of these things, right? So you're a partner with your vendor. You want them to keep you empowered about all of the new features that we've got and all of the tuning that the AI model will need to have along the way, but you also need to be able to adapt, right? You need to have a little bit of control over your own configuration so that you can go in there and say, oh, wait, this thing changed. We figured it out. Now here's a quick training, right? Here's a quick something on what trains or what changed rather, so you can continue to get the most out of that application.
Yeah, I think that's a good balance between the two. Ultimately, I think there's a good balance between the two, that we could have upfront training, and then as the agents progress through their career within an organization, maybe they need depth of knowledge so that they can get a promotion.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, because we've been talking a lot about that time to proficiency, right? And cutting that time to proficiency in half. And that's not just the onboarding time. It's the reskilling. It's the upskilling. It's the investing in their thing. I mean, you talked about a universal agent at the beginning of the webinar. And I think that's a really nuanced position to say, can you give someone the training that they need in advance of them going on that job, right? Like, how do we say, oh, you want to work the super duper complicated skill queue? Well, how do we get you there, right? And I think it's a combination of learning how to use the mechanics of your system, like what kind of information is going to be thrown at me in this new environment, but also giving them that practice piece.
So I guess we're more friends than we are foe, huh?
I'm hoping. I was really sort of, when we came into this, I was hoping we were gonna like duke it out, but I guess that's the problem when you invite a friend on a DM.
Well, like I said, I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks, and I've been struggling with being your foe on this, because I think we complement each other too much.
So where's that line of demarcation then?
I don't want to. This will be a faux one.
Okay, do it. We got it. We can end with that. That's fine.
I've seen a lot of customers trying to implement training at the same time they're trying to adapt AI, because they say, "Oh, AI coaching," and they're putting priorities over one over the other. It's like, yes, if I train my agents better, I can still use my same systems, but their same systems are the actual problem. So it's, how do you engage with a customer to bring both in without slowing down the overall, call it what you want, sales cycle,
Okay.
so that you could actually have a win-win on both sides. Because once one technology is in, you really probably have 6 to 12 months before you get to the next step.
So what you're saying is, if you are going to come in and completely change their dashboard, you don't necessarily want to have them sim training on the old dashboard while you're trying to implement the new one.
Correct.
But I would say they need to sim train on the new dashboard before you throw it in their lap, because that's going to be really scary. So I'd like to say you still got to put the sim train before the Minerva. But, whatever order you go through this, I think what I heard throughout the webinar, and I just kind of want to recap for everybody, is like, both Agent Assist and AI-powered coaching solutions really do make a huge impact on time to proficiency for agents. They both really impact an agent's confidence in their ability to do their job, and they both heavily impact that average handle time, which first call resolution being a kind of tangential component of that, right? And if both of those solutions can make big changes on it and work together as a complementary, because I think we're more friends than foe, although I'm going to say we got a minute left. If anybody wants to put in the chat whether you guys think we were friend or foe, I'm happy to hear where we come from. But, we really got that complementary piece where I think there's room in the universe, like the technology stack, for both of these solutions, because it's not just about what you do live on a call. It's about how you invest in your people and how you prepare them for those live calls, right? And there's going to always be that after the fact and before the fact coaching, but 100% you're going to want some real-time coaching as well. So this has really been an exciting conversation for me, because like I said, I was ready to fight when we came into this, but Dave came on. He was a very humble guest, and I'd like to thank you very much for being a part of the show today, Dave. And I'm sure, tell everybody where they can find more about Minerva.
No, thank you, Erin. You want to find more about Minerva, it's minervacq.com. And if you need any you have any questions, you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to reach out to you, or David at minervacq.com.
Awesome. And that's minervacq.com. And as you guys know, if you need more on SymTrain, always catch us at SymTrain.ai or catch me for episode 3 of Sit Down with SymTrain next month, where I'll be interviewing Jim Ayub, and we will let you know what that will be about very soon. So stick around, guys, and hope to see you next time.